Simplicity is actually something that seems to be a recurrent theme in people who live long and live well. And so, I love the fact that you brought up this idea of like the typical breakfast where, you're stacking the drive-through and, we didn't even talk about like how you get your coffee, with a pumpkin flavor and all the whipped cream and your convection oven, ultra processed breakfast sandwich and all that other kind of stuff that, we see this all the time. I'll tell you what I've seen. I've seen in some of the healthiest people that come from the healthy cultures, they live pretty simple lives. A great example is the people I've known from Greece, for example. They start their breakfast with basically a simple cup of coffee and maybe a piece of fruit. And that's it. It's really, really simple. All right. And maybe some Greek yogurt. All right. And not a lot of it, like a little tiny cup of it with some crushed pistachios, maybe a little bit of cut fruit into it. And that's it. And I actually embarked upon that myself and found myself feeling so much better by not loading in calories and loading in additives and loading in all that other stuff. Listen, I grew up like most people who are probably watching or listening to this, hey, it's really great to have a big topping of whipped cream with like all these fancy things on it. Like it feels like holidays, but to be honest with you, simple has always made me feel better. I start the day with a cup of coffee. And by the way, the coffee, as I have continued to conclude, it's one of the holy Trinity beverages, water, tea, and coffee. No matter what field you're looking at, whether you're looking at cancer, whether you're looking at diabetes, whether you're looking at longevity, whether you're looking at overall fitness, coffee seems to be good for you. Okay. I was told in medical school, coffee is not that great for the heart. It could actually give you arrhythmias and there's too much caffeine in it. The bioactives in coffee, which you would find as a common denominator from Ethiopia, which is where we think coffee originally came from, to Greek coffee, which is actually Turkish coffee, is pretty loaded with caffeine. So you got to be careful about that. But it's also loaded with these polyphenols like chlorogenic acid. And chlorogenic acid does amazing things to your metabolism, to your blood vessels, to lower inflammation, and just tip the odds in your favor towards longevity with a simple cup of coffee in the morning. Oatmeal, which is, basically cooked or steamed or boiled oats, actually contains a lot of bioactives from oats. And this is recent research I've done. We presented at medical conferences where we took whole oats, the kind you have in Aveeno skin cream and the kind you would have in oatmeal. We've extracted out the concentration of the bioactives. So what are the bioactives in oats? Well, one of them is called Avinanthramide. Okay. The other one's beta-glucan, which is the same thing you'd find in mushrooms and barley. Two really potent substances. And we decided to do some medical research by testing what can these oat bioactives do. So people talk about inflammation and all that stuff. I'm a scientist, so I wanted to see it for myself. So we collaborated with a group out of the University of Arizona and a standard model to look at wound healing. Now, I have a background in biotech, and wound healing is a big problem in people with diabetes, in nursing homes, in the intensive care units. You got skin breakdown, bed sores. People with diabetes wind up having wounds in their feet that they get gangrenous and they have to get amputated. So one of my passions, but also areas of expertise is how can we support healing, wound healing faster, right? So we talk about healing, right? So, okay, oat bioactives, if you inject them into the wound, in the border of a wound, and this is a lab experiment, we were so surprised. It doubled the rate of healing. It zipped the wound shut. And then when we did the medical research to food as medicine research, we did a deep dive into the tissue that healed. And what we found? Oat bioactives completely suppressed inflammation. Bingo, box checked, proven. Okay, I saw it myself. Number one. Number two, it generated more healing blood vessels. That's my wheelhouse. Angiogenesis, how the body grows blood vessels. Oats can actually stimulate healing by nurturing those blood vessels that we need for healing and lowering inflammation. And then something that was surprising to us is that in the lab, when we did this, used extracted from oats, injected into a wound, doubled the healing. We also discovered that the wound that healed was Scarless.
Mm.
And Scarless healing is a holy grail for anybody, any surgeon, any medical device company, any pharmaceutical company. We'd never seen this before. And we wouldn't have discovered it if we didn't actually take what Mother Nature had, pull it out, and put it into a standard medical test system. This is what like people always, talk about food as medicine. I'm one of the dudes that actually does it.
Mm.
And so when we looked at it, how could you get Scarless healing? I mean, like we looked under the microscope and this baby had this healed wound, had no scar, no inflammation, plenty of nourishing blood vessels, but it had no scar. When you actually looked at the collagen, and I know this is the topic that you've also talked about, and we can talk about it some more about collagen. Collagen is normally in tissue. It's a beautiful woven pattern. If you've ever had a beautiful oriental rug or tapestry on your wall or your window, like that's weaving. And when collagen is woven perfectly, there's no scar. So we looked at this. There was no scar. The collagen was woven perfectly in the healed wound with more blood vessels and no inflammation. Okay. And then we took it one step further. We found that the Oats Bioactives recruited stem cells.
The body's hardwired with these defenses, shields up, right? That's what we want to do. Because shields are already normally up, you want to raise them higher. But what are the things that take your shields down, right? What are the things that turn off the smoke alarm in your house, that unlock the doors? Excess sodium, too much salt, which can be present in a lot of restaurant foods. People eat out a lot, go to restaurants all the time. You ever go to the back of a kitchen or a restaurant to see how they're seasoning their food? Patrons love salty food. It makes food taste really great. Our brains respond very well to salty food. That high sodium levels actually speeds up, accelerates our cellular aging. So we actually age faster, but it also is a huge wear and tear on our health defenses, specifically our circulation. Our blood vessels, our angiogenesis system is taken down by excess salt. While you're sleeping really deeply, your metabolism is also burning down fat. So you think that you're not working out during the night? You're right. You're not actually exercising, but in fact, your metabolism is burning fat. Because while you're sleeping and your insulin levels don't need to be high because you're not eating, insulin levels go down, your metabolism shifts gears. I sort of give people the analogy. It's like your body is a race car, sports car, like a Ferrari. During the day, you are in gear to drive, accumulate speed, and you're revving your engines. At night, you shift gears where you're actually burning down fat. You don't need to accumulate more fuel. Now you're burning down the fuel. So when you're sleeping, you're actually burning away fat. But when you don't sleep well, or you don't sleep long enough, you're not burning down that fuel. That fuel accumulates. Day or two of not good enough sleep, that's okay. Think about flying overseas, getting some jet lag. You got to catch up. Once you catch up, you feel better. All right. But think about this like day in and day out. Chronically stressed people who are never getting good sleep. Add a little booze, alcohol to the equation. You can kind of see the problems that are going to build up. Your brain's going to be foggy. Your metabolism is going to be out of whack. You're not burning as much fat from the calories that you ate during the day. Now inflammation starts to rise in your body, and that inflammation really takes down your health defenses. And now you're much more vulnerable. So in your own example of where chronic stress leads to poor sleep and then you get sick, no surprise. The Japanese demographics show consistently some of the oldest, longest living people. They tend, first and foremost, okay, before we talk about what they eat, let me tell you what they don't do. They don't overeat. And I'm giving a purposeful pause there because overeating, caloric loading, okay, is very damaging to our metabolism. It actually counters our ability to live long. It actually speeds up our cellular aging. It sets up inflammation. So by cutting down on your caloric intake every day, that's one of the things is that the Japanese culture, the culinary and gastronomic approach to food in Japan tends to favor modesty, under eating rather than overeating?
And one thing I want to do for anybody listening to this is to try to bring a little bit of discipline and clarity to this idea of the use of the word processed and ultra processed, because
Sure.
I think we, those of us who talk about it all the time, we understand what we're trying to say. But I think for people who are listening, sometimes there's some confusion. What's what's processed versus ultra processed? And what I tell people is that we very rarely eat raw ingredients one at a time. Maybe an exception is a salad bar, or a fruit plate. You're eating every forkful is like one thing. A little thing of lettuce, a little tomato, a little watermelon or a pineapple. Most of the time, the foods that we eat, the food I enjoy, is cooked, prepared. Whether it's Chinese food, Indian food, Mexican food, Spanish food, Italian food, it's prepared. And that means that you're taking raw ingredients and doing something with it, which is processing it. So you ever see how they make homemade pasta? Get a big amount of flour, make a little hole in it like a volcano crater, crack a couple of eggs, and then just use your fingertips to start working it until it actually firms up, and then you roll it out. Okay, so that's like grandma in Italy making pasta the way it's been done for thousands of years.
Right.
That's processed. You're processing the food.
Minimally processed. A lot of people say.
Minimally processed. But the point is that like homemade like that with fresh ingredients could be technically considered processed.
Sure.
But that's not what we're talking about when we talk about the foods that we should be more careful about. Now, there's so much discussion about the food industry. And I want to maybe touch on that just a little bit, but ultra processed foods are not the foods you make at home, like manipulate at home to cook and to turn into a meal. Those are the ones that are made in a big factory and where machines are extruding ingredients and converting ingredients into forms and shapes like animal crackers, for example, that wouldn't naturally occur in nature, and then add lots of chemicals to them, emulsifiers, preservatives, artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, added sugar. That's another one. Okay. And this is all transparently on the ingredient label, but hidden in plain sight to the consumer. And so ultra processed foods are a choice that many of us have been, I would say, conditioned to reach for because of how we grew up in our society. Something out of a box that tastes really great and it's sweet and it's not very expensive. So maybe your mom bought a lot of it and it's in your pantry, maybe for months and months and months. Like food it's not supposed to last that long. Okay. And it's all engineered for convenience, shelf life, longer it lasts, better is for consumers, so to speak. That's what they make us believe, or certainly for the grocery store. And it's cheap and it's available, right? And then it's engineered to really make you crave it. When we are born, we are all like laptops, brand new laptops you take out of the box. It's perfectly designed. They all look the same. You plug it into the wall. When you start it up, the operating system is supposed to work exactly the same way. Okay. And yes, there are some genetic differences, of course, but lifestyle winds up being, 80% or more dictating our fate. And our fate starts when we were young. So a lot of these early exposures that we actually have wind up not only developing habits, but also developing cellular fingerprints that we carry with us to the decades that we wind up living. Now, the good news, it's never too late to actually revert back to your own operating system, which is this is why I tell people, if you're somebody who hasn't really paid attention to your health for most of your life and you feel kind of crummy and you're like, you know what, it's time to own up to this and I want to actually change myself. I want to do something. How do I do it? Which diet do I take? What supplement should I take? What should I cut out of my life? I mean, that's a typical thing that I often hear from somebody who's desperate to improve their situation and they're overwhelmed, especially in today's world. And then of course they invoke like, oh, is there a big conspiracy around me and I'm trapped in I'm trapped in somebody else's nightmare. You know what? What I say is that it's a very complex situation, health and food. All right. And you addressed, you started to address some of the nuances and complexities. What I say is that what you got to realize is that we all have it hardwired in ourselves to be able to have that operating system to get back to health. Our metabolism knows how to actually be healthy. We know how to lose body fat. We know how to actually regulate blood sugar for the most part. We know how to actually keep our joints healthy. We know how to keep our brains healthy. That's actually what comes out of the box. That's our operating system. Now, over the course of many years, we derail our operating system. It's like your laptop. You keep it too hot, you drop it, you download crazy things on it. It's got some viruses on it. Listen, you might keep your computer, your laptop in perfect shape. If I'm careless and I drop it and I do all those crazy things to it, I don't have any kind of hygiene on it. At some point, I'm going to regret it. I'm going to say, you know what? My laptop's running really slowly. I got all these viruses. My screen doesn't work so well. What can I do? I feel overwhelmed. And what I always tell people, like in your body, go back to basics, clean it up, go back to the operating system, all right, and start from there. Hey, if you like that video, then you're going to love this one. Check it out.